What's up, guys? Welcome back to the infamous project. Back on Justin's absolutely gorgeous black notch, which is completely ripped apart. If you guys haven't watched the videos that are actually, they're full length. And when I mean full length, I mean like there's no real editing. It's just straight raw footage of pulling most of the drivetrain out of this car. Now, since then, I sprayed up the engine bay. And while I sprayed up the engine bay, or actually after I had sprayed it, we've been waiting on his motor to arrive from Prestige. And during that time, and it's been a lot of time, guys, this car has been on my lift since August. All right. And I want to say the bay and all of that was required to be done before the motor showed up was done by September. We are now the beginning of January and the motor is finally here. So what happens when there's a bunch of time and your project's been sitting stagnant? Well, you start to get ideas and you start thinking, well, what else can I do in the interim while I'm waiting for my parts to arrive? Well, Justin's mind started spiraling and spiraling, and guys, he almost opted to repaint the whole car because the reality was all the trim is off. I've pulled the quarter glass out. There's a bunch of trim sitting here. Obviously the fenders are off, the hood is off. The car is pretty much in a state to be painted. And I'm like, man, it's original paint. The paint is beautiful. Are you sure you want to go down that route? Now, of course, I don't want to talk a customer out of things, but at the same time, I believe it's my job and my responsibility to make sure that we're spending money wisely. And I asked him outright, I said, Justin, are you trying to win shows with this car? Do you want this car to be one of the baddest Fox bodies in the US, if not the world? Like, what is your objective here? Because one road would be an absolute shit ton of money. The other road's still gonna be a lot of money, but you can achieve what you're after and not absolutely break the bank in just an silly, unresponsible manner. So we got a quote on the paint, and then he was thinking about a contrast in the engine bay, thought about powder coating all of the Maxim Motorsport parts that were underneath the car and everything that you see, the torque arm sitting there, the rear end's out of the car now. Guys, it's, like I said, it's just a snowball of project effect. Now, motor finally got delivered. All kind of came back down to earth and we're like, okay, what do we want to do here? So he wants the floor of the car painted black. That is why the rear end ultimately is out of it. And it'll be really easy to upgrade the brakes and do some other things back there that just kind of need to be fixed up. We think there's axle seals leaking and a couple other bits. So rear end is out. Been prepping the whole underside of the floor here. And let me tell you, I spoke about this, I believe, when I painted the engine bay. It's an absolute treat when you're dealing with a car that doesn't have undercoat from factory or aftermarket style applied, let alone the natural type of undercoating that leaky power steering pumps, leaky transmission seals, leaky rear main seals and all that cause all throughout the floor pan of your car. So this thing is super, super clean. Of course, hitting it with a Scotch pad, is cleaning and prepping at the same time. So if you guys are wondering what product I'm going to use, well, I'm going to be using the same thing that I did on the engine bay here. Seymour's Industrial Strength Flat Black Enamel High Solids. So I've got 4 cans of this. I've got my prep all. I have masks, obviously, to not breathe in tons of dust, and I have a painter's mask for when we're spraying the high solids fumes, sandpaper. And the thing about Seymour is it takes, like, don't be using just a normal, you know, super light gray Scotch pad. This is 180 grit. I've been using these brown Scotch pads, and even these guys right here, these guys are real nice and coarse, right? The Seymour, being such a thick product, it will fill and it will hide any of the scratches that will make. So getting into, you know, all of the little nooks and crannies and fancy areas and everything else, I still need to remove this guy, kind of the last piece of the puzzle here, and then finish off masking and prepping out the underside. Now, again, I've been cleaning everywhere where I need to mask to. Got some 3M automotive plastic sheeting, which almost has like a static in it and helps stick to the body and everything else to kind of keep it in place. But we will be masking it down. We don't want any overspray. I'm going to be masking off my hoist arms. Everything in the vicinity here is going to get pulled out of the shop most likely tomorrow. It's supposed to be a super nice day. It'll be ideal for painting. And that's pretty much the objective here. So we'll get the car all masked up. We'll finish getting everything prepped up and sanded up. And honestly, guys, watching me sand is probably pretty boring stuff. I'll throw a little bit of footage in of what I have. And that's pretty much it. Spray, spray, spray. Then I will put the car back down. We'll probably get the rear end loosely bolted in because the car is actually going to get transported off to my commercial shop. Then we'll be wheeling it across the street to Georgetown Classics, and they are actually going to be spraying the bay a surprise color. So you guys are gonna have to wait and stay tuned to see what the magic engine bay color is. I'm gonna say this right now, it's not gonna be for everybody because the engine bay of the Shipbox Fox, the Seaside Blue, definitely wasn't for everybody. So this one's probably, I gotta say ruffle feathers, but it's just not gonna be, you're gonna either love it or you're gonna hate it. Let's put it that way. So that is the status of Justin's black notch. So let's get some work done after that long ramble and update of where we're at with it. And hopefully we can start getting things back together for this car. There's actually more to the story about the motor itself that I'll do in whatever video comes following this one, talking about getting the drivetrain and everything else ready to go back in the car. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that either. All right, guys, nothing more than Dawn dish soap with some water, microfiber cloth, and just goes to show how clean this car is. Like, considering I've done the wheel wells and like kind of up and behind the rear bumper cover and all along the rocker panels, that's not very dirty. So when I say sometimes it's worth paying for that extra clean car, it will pay for itself in the amount of time and labor and efforts involved just to get things prepped sometimes. So you think body work is a lot of prep, you know, just getting things clean, right? After everything, I'm gonna have to wipe down the whole floor after I'm done scuffing everything down. We'll use some soap and water, and we'll be using some wax and grease remover, this prep all right here. And then after that, we'll be able to start spraying. So other than sorting out the engine bay area, all of the sides and rear of the car have been masked off. And I'll just kind of give you guys a little bit of a peek. So you can see everything is tucked relatively nice and tight, or I should say wrapped tight. And usually what I do is I put down one strip first and then follow it up with the next strip with the actual material that I'm using to mask off. So I've done everything, the wheel wells, everything on the front side, because we're going to be getting paint all along this area here as well. I need to confirm with him if he wants me to spray over his lines or if he wants me to pull those down. I have a feeling we're going to probably just end up spraying them. You can see here we've actually got a little bit of seam sealer cracking, and funny enough, this usually happens more so when somebody's jacked up on the pinch welds here, and as a result it puts stress and the seam sealer will crack. But this one hasn't been jacked up on, or maybe it was and then they banged it straight already. So what I'll be doing is I've got a tube of seam sealer underneath my products over there. We will be adding some there to get rid of that crack. This side had some crack. I've already straightened and banged this one nice and straight. So I'm just going to do a little rub along there as well. But if we go to the back here, you can see I'm trying to go the whole way. And you can see I've actually reverse masked up and along that edge, kind of sticking out before where the bumper support bracket is. So it's kind of hard to explain. And what I'll do is, it's hard with one hand. There we go. So it's a better view. So you can just kind of take your excess material, find creative ways of like tucking it. You know, use the bumper, use whatever you got to do. And you see now I'll be able to get paint all up in here. You can see it's all been scuffed down already. You can see all the scratch marks. And need to take off this little plate here for the fuel tank. And finish cleaning up in here. Probably do more of a gravel guard up in the wheel wells here. You can see where there's a little bit of wheel touching on occasion, so might give a little bit of big hammer treatment there just to avoid some of that in the future. And again, here you can see scuff marks. You need to get rid of the grease in the areas, and I didn't even want to touch that with the Scotch pads because the last thing you want to do is move grease around. This paint's not going to stick to that, but all inside here, scuffed as much as my hand could reach into places. So really trying to do a thorough job here. Need to pull out these guys, which is super easy. Just pinch these clips here and we can pull those plastics out for the emergency brake cables. And we'll just kind of keep prepping away. That's it, guys. It's all about the prep. It's not hard work. It's just long, tedious, boring work, and hoping for a really nice result in the end for all of that work that we do on the front side. We get rewarded on the back side. Nothing would be worse than if we didn't take our time to mask this off properly, or to clean the surfaces even first, right? And you're trying to stick your masking tape down and your masking tape won't stick, or it unsticks itself before the time comes for you to paint, and then you end up with overspray going on your nice paint job. So guys, use quality products as well. Like this is all 3M stuff. I'm sure there's some other products that are just as good, if not better, but don't use the cheap shit if you can avoid it, because it'll just make your life easier. I know I'm not going to have to worry about this tape coming off on me. Of course, make sure you press down and just go over everything as much as you can. If you think you're done, you're probably only at best at 80%. So this is sort of a rule that I've invented for myself, is that whenever I think I'm done, I've probably got 20% more effort that I need to put into the job before it's ready or prepped or whatever it is. So if I'm vacuuming a carpet and I think it's clean, 20% more I need to put in there. If I'm sanding stuff and I think that it's all sanded and I've spent 80 minutes on it, well, make sure that I spend another 20 minutes to make sure that everything has been fully scuffed and prepped. And guys, just the whole 80-20 rule, because the 20% that you miss is going to cause 80% of the problems later on, right? So hopefully other than the boringness of doing all this prep, some of these little pointers and tips are, you know, of adding some value to the video. So stick around and we'll be spraying the underside of this car before you know it. See if I can do this without getting on the GoPro. And there was just the ever so slightest crack left here once I'd bent the pinch weld back, so this will be more than sufficient other than trying to open up that brand new tube I have. There we go. And a little trick with seam sealer is that, you know, you can get a paintbrush with a little bit of thinner on it and brush it, and you'll get like a nice factory look. Now in this case, we're just kind of sealing, we're not finishing up huge gaps, but what I'll probably do is I'll take a little bit of thinner on a rag and I'll wipe off my prints. And this will be as good as new. All right, so you see you got a little bit of wax and grease remover on this shop cloth. And don't be afraid, guys. You can actually just wipe like that. You see it's gonna clean up. It's just gonna actually thin things out a little bit. And in reality, it's gonna help it get into that crack and seal up. There we go. It's like factory. And go over here. There we go. Looks nice and has kind of like that factory streak in it. All right, so a lot of the prep is done. I just have to mask a few little tiny things. And then tomorrow, I'm actually going to plastic down on the ground because it is being high solids and being so thick. There really isn't too much overspray. And it falls. So I just want to be able to let it fall on the plastic. I will be, like I said, moving pretty much everything out of the shop. I will, you know, that car's going to come out. I'll end up throwing a cover over the Calypso car, probably leave it up on the hoist. All these cars that are in the close vicinity will get moved, and then plastic over anything else that needs to be covered, and that will more than suffice. Overspray will not get all the way over here. It will be, if it did, it would be dry. Now, if it were clear coat, that stuff, it travels. You're spraying that generally at a higher pressure. It's not as controlled. You got to remember, we're spraying this with spray bombs as well. So it's not going to be too bad in terms of how much stuff is getting sprayed up and around and all over. So I'm going to let the floor and all the places that I sprayed with the dish soap and water and cleaned everything down. Want that all nice and dry. Finish masking the few last little spots. We got our crack seam sealed up, so that'll cure up overnight, and then tomorrow will just be kind of wiped down with wax and grease remover, doing all the plastic prep, moving the cars out, spraying the underside, and letting it cure. So we'll see you tomorrow. So you can see it is now the next day, and I've moved quite a bit out of the shop. In fact, I took it as an opportunity to do the, you know, biannual check tires and batteries, and I only had one flat on the Strawberry car. There's a slow leak on one of the rear tires, and both the batteries are cooked in these guys. However, everything else had good tire pressure and good batteries, and managed to move them all out underneath their own power. So we got a little bit of a display going on out in the front here. I'm gonna leave them outside for now. going to take an opportunity to wipe these two cars down. We'll be able to sweep the floors, clean up some of the drips and random stuff that hides under vehicles when they're parked in the shop like this. And most importantly, you do the final wipe down on the underside of this car and get in a position to start spraying. So I've actually got the cans of paint sitting out there in the sun. I shake them, you know, every 30 minutes or so just to kind of keep the paint moving and flowing and get it warmed up. And if you guys are into some serious cooler temperatures, a little trick that you can do is actually just soak the cans in a pail of warm water, and it'll help heat up the paint and get it up to temperature. Now that paint is actually good to spray from 10 degrees centigrade, so whatever that is, folks, somewhere probably around the 45 to 50 degree mark. So it actually does quite okay in cooler conditions, but I rather get it up to the beautiful 70 degrees that it's going to be out here today, and that way we can make sure that we get proper flow and adhesion and everything else, especially with the more satin colors. I feel like the SEM trim paint, for instance, like you want that a little warmer and it just flows nicer and goes down better onto whatever surface you're spraying it on. So I'm going to go ahead now, finish doing some detailing and cleaning up and stuff, but most importantly, going to wipe down the underside of this car with wax and grease remover. I've already wiped it all down with soap and water. That was done last night, so this is going to be the last step. And if you wanted to get really anal, this is just the underside of a car. You could take a tack cloth and, you know, just get any last little bit of dust and debris. Not overly concerned considering this is the underside of a vehicle. However, if you wanted to go that extra step, you are more than welcome to. So let's get the underside of this all wax and grease removed, and then I'm probably going to get some lunch. And after that, this afternoon, when the sun is at its peak and the temperature is at its peak, I'm going to get to spraying. And one other thing, if you guys are outside or you don't have climate control in your shop, try to avoid spraying right before sunset, because what happens is you get that dew point, and the dew point can really mess with the cure time of your paint. You generally want to make sure that you can get the paint sprayed on and the dry to touch time, so not the full cure time, because this paint takes 48 hours to fully cure, and of course if it's cooler out, probably even longer. But you want to avoid that dew point, because that dew point will seriously, you know, when you start getting condensation on your windows and your vehicles and all that, avoid that. Avoid the change in humidity, avoid all of that other horrible stuff that can impact your paint, and get it done at a good time before sunset. Like, definitely give yourself at least an hour in most cases for most paints, if not 2 hours before that dew point can even kick in. Now, me, I close my doors, I'm climate controlled in here, I don't have that to worry about, but you guys at home that might not have that luxury, just keep that in mind, so that way you don't potentially ruin or, I guess, weaken or lessen the durability that you're going to have in your paint after you've put in so much time and effort at prepping and getting your surface right to put it down. So let's get this cleaned up. All right, so not too bad, right? Maybe picked up a little bit of dirt here and there, but pretty good considering it's the floor pan of this Foxbody. So that's pretty much gonna be it, other than prepping, covering, closing some doors, and starting to spray. So stay tuned. All right, it is midday here and the time has finally come. You can see I've got everything covered, draped, that's important. Got plastic even down on the floor because in this case, the overspray is just going to come from the top and straight downwards. And as mentioned before, this stuff is a pretty thick paint, so it tends to just drop. What I'm going to do now is make sure that all my masking is all secure and in good form here. I actually want to mask off the discs. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, what do you do with where the hoist arms are? Well, once the car is back down on the ground. We can get it underneath the subframe connector in another spot, and then we can blow in those few areas. I was actually thinking about getting some sort of like felt pad or something that could be stuck on and then used just to kind of protect the underside of the car when everything is said and done. You can see here, just got to double check my masking right there that came undone, probably from the wind blowing against the plastic. So see, all this is all taped up. So we'll check all this stuff, make sure it's all good. And then we're pretty much gonna get to spraying. This has been getting mixed up all morning and ready to go. All the balls are loose and all that other good stuff. Gotta grab my paint mask. Safety first, guys. So probably recommend glasses. We'll see how I feel about wearing glasses under here if it's too dark. But gloves and light coats, guys, you don't need to kill it first round. So don't worry, about that. Light coats and numerous coats is better than the heavy coats. Every paint can says that, and it's like every single person always wants to ignore that fact. But it is true. They put it on the directions for a reason. And finally, this job has been kind of stretched out over a week, and I want to share with you guys the fact that if you're not on a rotisserie and sanding, with the floor vertically, and you're sanding up above, let me tell you, you guys are going to work out muscles you didn't know that you had, and you're going to feel it in your shoulders. So if you break this up over a couple days, that's good, and will definitely help alleviate some of the pain. And I can feel it today just because I've done, between all the masking and the prep, like the cleaning, there was quite a bit of that. And yeah, I woke up and I could feel it in my shoulders. So I'm gonna do my last walk around. We'll set the camera up. I've got my light somewhere so that hopefully I can see as best as I can in these conditions. And that'll be that. So let's get to spraying. It's about 2.5 coats underneath the car, probably spread over just over an hour's time. It says to recoat always within an hour with this particular product, and we're about 3:30 p.m. So we're pretty much right there. I'm going to get this last coat on, and because the weather's nice, we'll beat the sun down and the dew point and all that other stuff. But because I was like jamming to the music and doing the time lapse and stuff, it's not like I was really showing you guys how to spray. Now, some of you guys might be like, oh, why don't you use a spray gun? You can. I'd probably recommend getting 2 guns, a smaller gun and a larger gun. If you're going to do it that way, that's actually how I did Detch number 5 up on the lift over there. But the reality is that you want as much agility and movement on the underside of a car. Like, let's see here. I want to see if we got enough light. Yeah, we do. So, you want to be able to not only just spray like this and get all of this surface, but you want to be able to get like up on top of this bracket and up and behind this one and around these brake lines. You want to be able to spray up into these holes and orifices so that way you don't see, the traditional ugly non-covered surfaces that Ford left behind. So that's something that you definitely want to consider. So, it's drying up pretty nice. Nice thing about a satin black is it goes on wet, and then you can kind of tell where you've sprayed. And then once it dries up and gets that nice satiny finish, you know that you're pretty much good to put your next coat on. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of little nooks and crannies and everything else. So guys, this isn't the easiest thing to paint, to be honest with you. So if you think that this is just like a quick and easy, like scuff it down real quick and paint job, like it can be. And you know, a lot of people are doing the the Raptor liner or like a gravel guard or any of this stuff. Guys, personally, I'm not a fan. I feel like, number one, it's potentially hiding stuff because of that texture. If there's corrosion, or maybe there was replacement floor pan, cracks that got welded up, whatever it might be, that stuff will pretty much encase and cocoon and hide a lot. So last thing you want to do is hide stuff. And I feel like it's just, I don't know, the easy way out. So I always like having a nice smooth finish. And again, that's my opinion, doesn't mean it needs to be yours, but that's pretty much where we're at. I'm going to put the last coat on, let it dry overnight. Well, it really needs to dry for the next 48 hours. She's got more than enough time, but you know, after tomorrow, I'll unmask stuff and we'll be able to go underneath the car and show you guys just how nicely, I think nicely, this is going to turn out. All right, guys, we got this floor painted in the nick of time because we are in the middle of the cold spell here in Texas. But we've had, what, 72 hours of cure time here now or more. I had the heat turned on in the shop just to make sure that the cooler weather wouldn't compromise any of the curing. And I cannot be happier with the outcome of this floor. So let's have a quick look and wrap this video up. So there you have it. Not too bad, right? I am super pleased with the outcome of the underside of Justin's notch here, which means now I can work at getting all of the rear components mounted back into the car. We'll take care of those axle seals and a few other things with the rear end and get it over to get the engine bay painted. And like I said, guys, it's gonna be a love it or hate it situation. I personally think it's cool because you know what? It's Justin's car. Justin is building it to represent Justin and a reflection of his personality and who he is. And any of his builds have just been nothing short of awesome. And they're definitely not cookie cutter. We'll just put it that way. I'm gonna leave that one there. So until next time, we'll catch you back here on the Infamous Project.